Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Now, leaders, the information on today's program, well, it was gathered from many different places and many different people. So if you see yourself or hear yourself in our conversation today, please remember, it is not all about you. Now, today I'm going to start off with some fun stuff because I believe that we really need to talk about this as leaders. Today's first topic is going to be called Just Thinking. Just thinking. Well, you see, I've heard it said that we here in the universe that we're in right now, that seems like we've all stopped thinking. They went on to say deep intellectual thinking, like we've moved backwards in time. You see, thinking requires answers, and thinking that requires a back and forth thought verbal process. So when I heard someone say this, well, I gave them my answer, and I'm going to be very careful how I pronounce this. I said bullshirt, S-H-I-R-T, just so you know. And I took that from one of the television shows that is on right now. It's called The Good Place, where they can't curse, but they can make things up. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm making things up. I'm thinking deeply. You see, I really believe that people in this universe do think. I think that they do ask questions. They do put forth conversation between each other. And they take a quiet time to consider the here and now and the later. When I was listening to this special person, they were on stage and they were belittling everyone who was in the group. They belittled everybody who was even sitting listening to them. Some had paid good money to come and do so. And I thought to myself, why would you do that if you were the speaker? Well, what they were trying to do was to get you to really start thinking about how you're doing things and get you to really start opening your mind to, well, maybe I need to ask some better questions. Maybe I need to have some better conversations. And maybe I need to take some little quiet time to really consider all the parts and pieces before I make decisions. You see, I also believe that when a person brings forth a question, a different way of looking at the situation, a new thought or idea, taking time to think is so very important. Often the questioner is lambasted over and over, informed that they are incorrect or just plain wrong. You see, many times when I see this happen, people are only listening just enough to give an answer. They're really not listening to the whole piece because they don't want to get invested. They don't want to be committed to the conversation, committed to the thought process, committed to opening their mind. But at some point, well, people just stop thinking, questioning, or even trying to build relationships. They become, if not unthinking, unlikely to communicate. They're even their own thoughts. When we start really shutting people down, and we do it on a consistent basis, especially as leaders, we have broken the trust. We have said to them, the relationship is not important, and you are not important. And so because this happens, and the people have had this happen over and over, they really do stop having a curiosity mind. They really do stop having imagination and dreams and goals. Because the questions they're asking sometimes are to try to clarify in their own minds things that are going on or things that are happening, or even a new idea. And we must be very careful on not to do that. As I watch little young people grow up from kindergarten and go into first grade, and now they're going from preschool to kindergarten to first grade, many times by second grade, they've already learned the fact, sit down, be quiet, don't ask questions. Their imagination seems to get squandered and pushed down. And oftentimes I see it by the time they get out of their college career or they go into the workforce, this has already happened. And so their curiosity has been turned off. Their imagination has been just disintegrated. All because then in the beginning, they were trying to ask a question. They were trying to learn. They were trying to clarify in their own minds what was going on. Leaders, this is such a dangerous piece that I talk about it. I encourage you to talk about it. I encourage you to look into it and ask people, do I really listen to you? Do you feel I really listen to you? You might get some really strange answers. Now, what I heard was that if you don't think like me, this is what I heard that day, then you are doing something wrong. And of course, as an individual, some like to be in corporate settings and thinking and believing the way of the group. There are others who are thinkers, deep intellectual thinkers, who are on their own, and when they share, well, they're cut to ribbons by the group. They're almost meant to take sides, and if they don't agree with you, they're kind of told to go and sit down and sit on the sidelines and don't bother you. Well, that in itself gets to be a very hard, different piece, doesn't it? Now, as leaders, I want to encourage you to listen to some of these things. First of all, I want you to understand, and I want you to really put in your own mind that each person is an individual. Each person in their own time and space have their own way of thinking and doing. Each person, even though you want everyone to be the same, they're not. And some deep thinkers, when you're having a discussion, really, they get quiet and you wonder, well, how come they're not giving us something? They need to assimilate all the information. Because they need to do that, they're oftentimes looked at as, well, they don't care. And then when they come back at a later date, you go, hey, we've already discussed that. We're done. We're moving on. Each person is different. And we need to constantly understand how that works. Well, I want you to look at this next piece and really put some time and thought process in listening to it. You see, quiet time thinking can be done anywhere it works for the individual. In quiet time thinking, deep intellectual thinking, quite honestly, some people almost require and do it while listening to music. They find the music stimulates their brain in different ways, and they come up with different ideas. The curiosity and the intellect starts to really overpower them when they're listening to music. It is a structured rhythm. And if they're a linguistic type person, this will really, appeal to them. Or if they're a rhythmic person, this will appeal to them. I've known people that in the midst of a hectic, busy, work, crazy day, in a hectic situation, I've seen them really almost stop and put the thinking into it right then and there. And they can do it while craziness is happening all around them. And being able to do that is a really important piece. I've known people who they say they do the best thinking when they're driving, which kind of scares me a little bit because it seems like you should concentrate on your driving. But now with new autonomous cars that are going to drive themselves, maybe that's a good thing. But each person is different. Now, some people take a siesta. Quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. I do some of my best writing, I do some of my best things after I take a short time out after lunch. And I get up feeling refreshed and ready to go, and my mind has been active during that whole time, thinking of different things, and I'm curious about different things. I'm ready to go do the research and get prepared. I'm ready to go to that next step. And then there are people like my loving Miss Robin, that she says that playing these electronic games that stimulate her mind, the word games and the action games and things, really start to really make her mind work. And her curiosity and her imagination seems to run wild. And the new ideas seem to just come down, and she keeps a pad of paper there to jot down those new thought processes. How exciting is that? How exciting is it that each one of us do it in a different way? Now, I've been asked this question, and I'm not so sure that I know how to answer it. Can you train yourself to do it? Can you train yourself to think deeply? Can you train yourself to take and do it? Well, I think that it comes naturally. And I think you have to be open to it. Long time ago, when Robin and I got married, it's been over 40-some years, that she had to get used to me keeping a pen and a pad of paper next to the headboard of our bed. And waking up in the middle of the night with an idea and being able to jot it down and go back to sleep. When we were first married, she said this just kind of drove her right to the edge. But when she realized this was my subconscious at work, that this is where those ideas and imaginations really started for me, she went on to understand that deep thinking was happening at that time. Number 3, relationships must be continuously built to be able to feel safe in sharing. Relationships can get messy from time to time. They can be misunderstood from time to time. They can even get to a point where I don't know if I want to play anymore. It takes intentionality to build that relationship and use it continually through the organizational piece. It also requires that continuous building for the other person to feel safe about sharing and being accepted. That their ideas and their questions will be accepted instead of ridiculed. I have a friend who says all the time that practice makes permanent. And practicing intentionality of listening, I tell you what, it's a chore. And I don't want you to look at it as a chore, but I want you to look at it as an intentional piece of your everyday opportunity. And as leaders, we need to do it more. Practicing listening, discerning before speaking. The question comes down to what you do daily builds habits. So being intentional about doing this on a daily basis after a while will become part of who you are. Now, I know there's all sorts of programs out there that says after 90 days, if you do it every day for 90 days, you can take. What I have learned is that many times it takes me longer than 90 days. It might take 2 times 90 days. And sometimes I have to be intentional about it even longer before it becomes a natural part of my life. But listening was a tool that I had to groom and I had to really bring on slowly and learn. You see, if you have an environment when you're younger where listening is not practiced, only listening to give an answer is practiced, you have to overcome that first and then move on. Now, Number five, I got this from a pastor friend of mine who was giving a sermon one day on a Sunday, and he looked out over the crowd and he started to really talk to everyone there that just how important it was to share our thoughts with one another. And he said these words: get up, look up, link up with others who are thinkers and share the knowledge. Ask questions of one another. Look for answers as a group. Recognize that all thoughts have substance. And like you, all people are looking for that opportunity to be listened to. That, my friends, really starts to take us in that different direction of just thinking. I want to encourage you to encourage those around you to never stop questioning and sharing. But keep an open mind. Listen first to all, then discern, maybe do some research before you give an opportunity of an answer. You see, many times taking time is what we need to do. That's why when he said get up, he meant get up out of your chair, get up out of your world, move around, get to know everybody. You know, link up with those around you. Everybody's a thinker. When I heard this person say that, well, let me go back up to it. I'm to get the exact things. No one does intellectual thinking anymore. I couldn't believe what I was even saying, because I didn't believe it. I didn't believe in it. But the more I started putting time and thought process into what he had said, I did realize there were probably many who felt shut out and left out because they had provided that deep thinking and no one listened. The wisdom of the day, leaders, is do not be around one-way thinkers, as they will stifle your inner creativity and exploration of the cosmos. Do not be around one-way thinkers. Encourage everyone that you come in contact with to have this open mind to accept what others are saying. That doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It doesn't mean you have to say, yeah, you're right and I'm wrong, or you're wrong and I'm right. It means that you're going to listen long enough that every once in a while you're going to say, wow, that's a great idea. How can I be of help to make it a reality? That, my friends, is what true leadership is all about. So, again, deep intellectual thinking? Yeah, I believe everyone does, whether you realize it or not. And maybe you just haven't thought about it. Maybe it just has never come up in your conversation. Maybe you're so used to thinking and listening just long enough to give an answer that you've never really put a lot of intentional thought process behind it. And now, well, like those who were in the audience that day, really had to say, well, I don't agree with you, and here's why. But they really had to say, you just might be right, and I need to do something about it. This person always comes out with some kind of shocking thing, their first couple sentences out of their mouth. And from time to time, I actually get kind of upset when he does such things. But I've learned that he does it to grab people's attention, to get them to stop and open their ears, to get them to stop and listen long enough for them to get the entire message. And so he's practicing what he's preaching. Now, this is an intentional opportunity to learn. You see, we all have that opportunity to learn. And so I'm going to encourage you, leaders, to not only do this yourself, but to pass this on. Some of the ways I have found that this works very well is to keep track of your thoughts. For me, I use a journal. And that day-to-day journal has helped me really transcribe my inner thoughts and ideas. Now, many years ago, a person taught me how to do that well. They said each of your journals has 2 pages. It has a left page and a right page. And I said, yeah. On the right page, I kind of put the date down and kind of go through by day of what happened and what didn't happen, what should have happened, what couldn't, didn't, all those different parts and pieces, the good, the bad, the ugly. On the left side, though, that's where I put an article I read or need to read, a book I've read or need to read, or a thought that came up in the middle of the night, something I need to research, someone I need to go and speak to, it's my action page. And when I learned about that, I was able to really do my deep thinking and put things on the action page. Now, so what do you do with it? I always like that part. Well, Dick, what do you do with that page? Well, quite frankly, what I do with it is I go back and review those every week, all my action pages, and I look at those ideas again. The ones that kind of stick out really clear, I go do some research on those so I'm prepared to either speak on them or I'm prepared to share that information. As leaders, I think that's just such a wonderful piece. Now, I have everyone around me doing those things, and it has grown our company to a point where we're going to have to make some decisions on how we're doing things. And so we're starting that process of looking at maybe if we're going to keep our vision, we're going to keep our vision and mission, we're going to change our strategy we're going to change our strategy, I think, quite a bit. And it's changing that strategy of how they do things and what we do daily to live our mission and achieve our vision. The reason that's changing is because everyone's getting on the same page, but the new ideas and the new ways of doing things and the imagination has just gone wild. The fun part about that is that everyone is deep thinking. Now, I have one person that's on our world here that they're artistic, and their deep thinking happens between normally 2 and 4 in the morning. I'm usually asleep. And when sometimes they get a piece that really strikes them, I'll get a text or a phone call, and I'll have to get up. And fortunately, Miss Robin is good with that. But I'm always excited about their excitement. I'm excited about their imagination, their curiosity, and when their time in doing it. So when someone tells me that the world, the universe is not thinking, they're not doing any deep, looking into themselves, they're just it's not happening, I have to say, nah, I don't believe that. I believe it's actually happening. We're just not talking about it. We're not sharing about it because I believe there's a bunch of people who have been put down and told to be quiet. And they've been put down enough where they are. Leaders, if you're folks that you're working with on your team, on your company, in your church, if they've become quiet, that should be your biggest key teller that they've learned to be that way from someone. So if the people around you are not deep thinkers, if the people around you are not thinking and they're not sharing and they're not doing these things, maybe you need to ask the question, am I listening? Now, if you really want to get an eye-opener, ask people that question. Do you feel I listen to you, your ideas, your curiosities, your imaginations? Huh. Pretty scary thing, don't you think? It's not too scary if you're just willing to do it. When you're willing to do that, leaders, it's going to build your trust value. It's going to increase your integrity. It's going to increase your character. And you never can tell. You just might learn something from it where you can pass on that information. All right, so let me go over these real quick. I see our time's running, and I'm getting the nod from across the way here. All right. Thinking is individual, each in their own way, time, and space. Quiet time thinking can be done anywhere it works for the individual. Listening to music in the midst of the workday, in a hectic situation, driving, taking a siesta, playing games on their electronic devices. Relationships must be continuously built to be able to feel safe in sharing. Practice makes permanent. What you do daily builds habits. Man, write that one down. I'm going to tell you, that's a great one. Get up, look up, link up with others who are thinkers and share knowledge. Ask questions, look for answers, and recognize that all thoughts have substance. Never stop questioning and sharing. Never stop questioning and sharing. Keep an open mind. Do not allow yourself to be around one-way thinkers, as they will stifle your inner creativity and the exploration of the cosmos. We were over at the Space Center just 2 weeks ago, and they're getting ready to take and go to Mars. The questions that are happening, the imagination that's being used, the creativity that's coming from so many different people to make this happen, to me, is just an exciting time to be a part of the world. So when I heard this person say, there are no deep thinkers anymore, I said, you need to go over there and take a look. You need to be around these young people who are actually doing it. And we who have been around a few years need to practice and be intentional about letting others have that imagination, the curiosity, and do the deep thinking. And let them share those ideas and knowledge with all those around them, that they can hone it into something that's wonderful, that they can hone it into something that everyone can do together, and they can bring it all home in one piece. Now, I see our time is coming to a close, and I'm always in a curiosity mode when this happens, because I get so excited about working with you each and every time. But on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, I want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you become a better leader. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, please don't hesitate. Give us a call, 727-422-1833, or send me an email, dick@ewfw.org. Go to our website, spend some time, look around, and you know what? There's a box there. You can send me a note, www.ewfw.org. When you know that you want me to come and put on a leadership seminar at your location to help your folks really go and grow to that next level, give us a call. We book up pretty quick over the years, so make sure you're doing it as soon as you can. 727-422-1833. Well, Until next time, this is DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.